So here it is, taking delivery of your CLK GTR. But first and foremost, an instruction manual. I think it's very important in this day and age when we're unable, because of the COVID situation, to do a physical handover to explain how the car works. So, without further ado, let's go. In terms of central locking, it's got a remote from a Mercedes CLK, funnily enough, and central locking. And it works on the basis that press the open button once, and it will open the driver's door only, and press it again, it will do the passenger door as well. Okay, next up, before we go out on the road, something that's really important is the car has an inbuilt fire system, but it's not in an obvious location. So first of all, we've got to switch it on. So if we go into this luggage panel on the driver's side, behind this panel here, it's just a simple knob that we twist, pull it out, and you've got the inbuilt fire system. If you push the button up and hold it, it flashes yellow to tell you that it's got battery. If you just leave it in the middle, as you'll see, that says system inactive. Now, if I reach for the fire button inside here, if you watch, if I press that button, it goes red. That shows that the system is working. Now, if I press that red button when the system's armed, clearly the fire extinguisher is going off. So this is a test function. Now, in order to turn the system to active or armed, you simply flick the switch to the down position, and that's ready to fire. The switch is down by the handbrake, and if ever you find yourself in a situation where you've got a fire, you just press and hold that button for a couple of seconds, and it will fill the engine bay with the fire extinguisher powder. So that's how it works. And I'd always recommend arming that before you go anywhere, but when you leave the car, take this panel out and turn it off. So put it back to the middle position, and that's off. Now, whilst we're in here, we've converted it to a modern CLK charger system. This is a European one, but an American one will be supplied as well for America. So if we just disconnect this at this stage, you'll find on here that it's got 3 lights. So when it's charging, it will be flashing green or yellow. And if you see a red light, that means your battery is going flat for some reason, which means that maybe the mains power isn't on. So to get to the charging point, I'll just quickly close this door. Simply press this hatch here in the middle, and it opens like that. Very cool. In here, you'll find the lifting system operating switch, which we'll go through later, your screen washer filling point, very elaborate, and then here, your battery charger. So you just twist that cap off, take your charger lead, find the right position, and twist this clockwise until it locks in position, and then put it on trickle. And obviously, twist that anti-clockwise, and then it just pulls straight out. Put the cover back on. So next up, getting in. Well, it is tricky, but it's not as tricky as you might think. I think this is my preferred way in, but it might be different for others, but this seems to work quite well for me. I tend to leave the steering wheel on, but it has a removable function. So if I just run through that first, simply, it's got a boss behind that you pull in, like this, just like a racing car. You pull that towards you, and you'll be able to pull the steering wheel off. And then when you put the steering wheel back on, you'll find a position, and if you just twist it left to right or anti-clockwise to clockwise, you'll find the right point. You'll hold the boss again, and it will click into place. And just to make yourself feel happy and comfortable, pull it and make sure it doesn't come off in your hands. So in terms of getting in, this is what I think is easiest. 1 foot into the footwell, sit on the sill, mind your back on the catch for the door, hold your left leg, fold it over into the footwell, and then slide down, and we're in. Very comfortable. Put the steering wheel on, as we discussed earlier. Find the right position, go straight on, double check on the back. Yeah, we're in. All good to go. Okay, so we're inside the car. Time to shut the door. Very simple, pull lever here. Be careful. It's a very lightweight door and it slams shut really easily. So just let it fall for the last part and you've got an opening lever just like that. So very easy. There we are. Okay, so back to that traditional Mercedes CLK key. Fits into the column just next to the right hand side of the steering wheel. So we turn the ignition on. and the dash lights up and it says 0 and there's a green light. That means it's in neutral. Now, some people say the failing of this car is the gearbox, but I don't necessarily agree. However, it can be slightly tricky going between gears, especially when you're trying to get back to first or neutral. So I'm going to fire the car up, and it's a clockwise turn like a traditional starter, very easy. Sometimes you'll hear a belt squeal when it first starts, when it's cold, but that soon goes away. Okay, so it has power steering, you've got the horns on here, work like that. Traditional big Mercedes indicator stalk here, which is left and right with your washer on it, your flash, everything's on this one stalk, so that's very straightforward. On the left here you've got the light switch which goes from side lights to main lights, flash and dip beam on that stalk as we said, and if you go one further it puts a rear fog light on as well. It's also got parking lights, so if you go to the left you can turn a parking light on and leave the left on or the right on. So in terms of gear engagement, it's very straightforward really. Foot on the brake, foot on the clutch, pull the right hand lever and you hear it click and it goes into first. Now sometimes, and at this time it hasn't done it, it won't go from 0 to 1, but if I just gently let my foot off the clutch, it starts to move so we know we're in first. And as you pull away, it will probably find that it's in first and show first and then second, third. And going up through the gearbox, it's very good, but sometimes just trying to find neutral can be a bit of a pain. And I think that the best way to do it is if you know that you're not in first, but it says you're in, or sorry, you know that you're not in neutral, but it says you're in neutral, you just let the clutch up and you're still moving. So I've pulled the right hand one, it's gone to second, but we knew we were in first. So now I've pulled it once again, gone to first, just tried to pull away again, and now that's in neutral. So sometimes you just have to do that. When you're trying to go from second to first to neutral, you need to just slightly edge forwards a bit, then try and select down a gear again, and then down from first to 0, and you're in neutral and you can come off the clutch. Finding the reverse, again, is a bit of a palaver, but it's good when you know how. So clutch down, thumb on the reverse lever, and pull it all the way back, and I mean as far as you can, because often it won't actually go in. So at the moment it still says 0 in reverse, but I'm sure I'm in reverse. And there we go, pulls backwards. And sometimes when it finds it's actually fully in reverse, the 0 and the green light will go out completely. And one thing to watch out for is you've got to make sure that you have pulled this all the way back, because sometimes it hasn't quite engaged, and as you let off the clutch it makes a horrible grinding noise. But you just put your foot back on the clutch and make sure you've pulled this up, and it will hold itself in reverse. The parking sensors come on, so here you've got your lights from green, amber to red, and obviously it's self-explanatory. When it goes red and the beep goes solid, there's something really close behind. So to take it out of reverse, again, push the nipple on the top of the lever, hold it and let it go all the way forwards, and we're back in neutral. And to select first, foot on the clutch, you hear the click and we're good to go. As for the rest of the controls in here, you've got your electric mirrors here in the middle, so left or right, and they move electrically. You've got your hazard lights and the all-important traction off, press and hold, ASR off until the big exclamation mark stays on in front of you. Otherwise, the rest of it's pretty self-explanatory. The aircon system and heating works like a standard 90s Mercedes. Hot to cold, 1 to 5, EC to turn the AC on and off. You've got a heated screen, and then you've got the different functions for all the different vents, and the vents work in the same way. But the rest of it's self-explanatory. 4-point harnesses, which have standard seatbelt locking mechanisms. So you just plug those in, you do up the lap belts in a traditional manner. The same for the shoulder harnesses. And really, that's it. The final thing to do is to get the front and rear clams off. Okay, so now time to get out. Easiest way, sit on the sill first. So you slide out like that. Use the roll cage here to balance yourself. Rotate. And there we are. Not easy, but life without challenges is boring. Just before we remove the front and rear clam as the final party piece, the final flap is on the passenger side. This is for fuel and oil. Again, just press gently in the middle, and you've got your fuel filler cap, oil filler, and your dipstick. The fuel filler, like any race car, you just pull that up, twist it anti-clockwise, pull it off, in goes the fuel. Again, place it back in, twist, push down, that's locked in position. After a hard run, proper driving, let the car switch off, leave it for 2 minutes, and then we check the oil by removing this ridiculous elephant length dipstick. Give it a clean off, put it back in there, and dip the oil. And there you go. And if you want to add oil, of course, you just fill it up here. Yeah, 040 is the oil. And on the inside of this panel here, it gives you the tyre pressures for front and rear, which is pretty useful. And remember, when you go to close this, just be really gentle, and then it'll just close like that. Very easy. So when you want to have a look at that beautiful V12 engine, it's very easy. First of all, we've got to undo the clips on both sides. So you put your finger in here and open the clip like that. Okay. And then next up, you need the team, because this is not a one-man job, I'm afraid. Okay, over to you guys. So you ease it back slightly first, and then the electrical connector, which is on this side, and then the guys lift it up slightly, but keep it low to go over the exhaust, and then it slides back. You want to keep it really close to the wheels. You don't want to come straight up, it won't work. So up, over, and back, and then there we are. All 665 horsepower. Okay, so to put it back on, same again. Bring it back on, guys, if you don't mind. Here's your electrical connector here that plugs into here. So remember, we want to keep it really nice and low over the wheels. And when going back on, the key is to just try and make sure that it finds its place at the rear, because the exhaust pipes have got to slip through that rear clamshell. So in the sill, you've got these locating strips so that it can fit in to the sill, and it sits there. Check at the back, and then we move it forwards. Of course, we've got to reconnect the electrical units. Okay, so now for the front clam, again, 3 clips, same as the ones on the rear, 1 each side and 1 in the middle. And then it's just a short slide forwards, and we have to get to the electrical connector again under the front on the passenger side. Anti-clockwise on the car, remove that, pull it back, disconnect. So once we've slid forwards a couple of inches, we just gently lift it up again. The key is not to go too high too quickly, and it just slides straight forwards and reveals the front suspension. And putting it back on is much like taking it off, just low and slow. So let's go, guys. Now on the front of the lower splitter, there are some small cones that the front clam has to meet, which you'll soon find. So again, like this, we get it in position, make sure we're in the right place. Yeah, it's all fitting right, okay, guys? Happy? So we've got to do the electrical connector again on this side. There we go. Okay. And that's it. So the other day we went through the instruction and operation manual for the CLK, and today is the day that it's going. But first we've got to demonstrate its final party trick. Now, these GT1 homologation specials were based on race cars, but unlike the GT1 that has fake air jack slots, This car actually does have jacks, although they're not air jacks, they're hydraulically operated lifting jacks. So they're a bit slower, but this is how it works. So we've got to have the car running. So I'll just switch it on. And behind the panel, on the driver's side, we've got this switch. And we flick this switch up to reveal the actual toggle switch and simply click it up and wait. And now the jacks will be coming down from below the car and eventually we'll lift it off the ground. So now the car's fully raised in the air and we've got 2 jacks fully extended at the front, 1 in the middle at the rear, and to put it down, it's so straightforward. Just flick the toggle switch down and down it goes. And so that you know that each jack has been fully retracted into the chassis, we've got these 3 green lights. So when you see 3 green lights, that means they're fully retracted into the chassis and the car's ready to go. This particular CLK, for all the bits and pieces that we've done to it, new seat, new exhausts, new headlining, we've made this flight case so that it can go with it and all the parts can stay with it forever. But every CLK in period came with this mini flight case, and within this you'll find just a few bits and pieces. So we've got the what's called elephant's feet. When the car's up in the air on its hydraulic jacks, you can fit these in underneath, and that means that if ever the pressure fails, that the car doesn't drop down. So there's 3 of those. Then there's a couple of the extra luggage bags which could go in the sills, and you've got your AMG limited edition number 7 of 25 charger. On this car we've actually converted it to a C-Tech using the original charger cable, so that's within here, but that's what you have in there. Sometimes you might have a torque wrench as well as the wheel socket. So that's the instruction guide to the CLK and this particular car before it goes off to its new owner. Hope you found it interesting and informative, and we look forward to seeing this car out and about with its new owner.